I'm Lisa Smith, and this is Focus on Business. Today, opportunities for women in the U.S. are endless. As of January 2017, there were an estimated 11,600,000 women-owned businesses in the U.S. Attitudes are shifting, and women are beginning to make pivotal strides in manufacturing. Lori, we're talking about women in manufacturing today. I think one of the best news pieces that came out of that show is that there's really not as many barriers today for women as we had maybe thought. There's opportunity everywhere, and there are resources. Even though we have lots of opportunity, we still communicate a little bit differently, as SBAM sometimes talks about.
Yes. As business owners, there is some communication differences with women and men. I would say one of the most important things that the women are dealing with right now is the ability to find another peer or another business owner that you can share your experiences, trials, tribulations with. Oftentimes in a business, and you know as being a business owner, sometimes it's a lonely place. There is not someone within your organization that you can share openly and honestly. And it's important for women and other business owners to find a peer, a business owner that they can talk to and relate to.
I have to say, I probably had been an owner for about 10 years before I found an owner-to-owner group that I regularly interacted with. And it's still only a few times a year, but when I'm in that group, I feel like I am now with my people. I can feel plugged in, I can feel engaged. And you're right, being a business owner is very lonely. So it's important that you find a place to be. And then also with other leaders. Can you talk a little bit about the SBAM Leadership Council?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to. SBAM offers a couple of different opportunities. The first one is the Leadership Council. That's for second stage business owners, typically a business of 7 employees or more that's been up and running for a few years. It offers the business owner an opportunity to get together with other leaders from across the state of Michigan that are small business owners. They get together, they share their trials, tribulations, business bombs very openly as owners. There's no sales there. It's an owner-to-owner opportunity, really to meet as people, as peer and mentors. That group meets 3 times a year, and if some of you would like more information, they could come to sbam.org. We also have 8 regional owner-to-owner programs across the state that are available for owners to come to.
Thank you. For today's show on Women in Manufacturing, we've gathered some impressive women that own and operate manufacturing companies. Our guests today are Gina Thorson of Stormy Kromer, Sasa Akerval of Sisu Mouthguard, and Karen Smoots, who invented the green glove dryer. What an impressive group you are.
Thank you.
Why don't we start by saying, what is it that you manufacture?
I'll start. So we manufacture the Stormy Kromer cap and other apparel and accessories. And even more broadly, we are a cut and sew manufacturer, which just means we take large rolls of fabric, we cut them into pieces, and sew them back together into finished goods.
And we do, like you said, Sisu mouth guards, but we also have 2 other products that are meant for dental protection. We do Sovan night guards for bruxism and TMJ. And then we have a line of mouth guards for surgery for certain procedures.
And my company manufactures an antimicrobial version now of our glove dryer called the Eco Dryer. So it's a twist and lock antimicrobial, I guess we would say wet winter accessory dryer that's just used with the heating systems that are in your home, your school, or your office. And travels with you as well. So we manufacture that here in Michigan.
So you're not just owners and operators of manufacturing companies, you're also innovators in a lot of ways. In fact, Karen, I happen to have seen your Innovations Award, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. My company manufactures the glove dryer, but January of 2018, fortunate enough to finally receive a utility patent on it. So that was really kind of that, hallmark of innovation that was seen from a different level than just, hey, this is a cool product, this is really neat. So that was the start of really applying for the Innovation Award through Michigan Celebrate Small Business. And so our company did, and lucky enough to win that award last year for Michigan Celebrate Small Business on the innovation side of just, it's, I'm very big on not, I don't want to create technical stuff. Tech is not really my strong suit. I like simple, everyday solutions that help families and kids and now teachers in schools, and so that's what our product was really recognized for, is just creating something different but still simple and easy to use.
So your product is something that sits on top of a register, a heat register,
Yes.
with little spikes up, and you put people's mittens on, the kids'
Correct.
mittens on them, right?
We dry gloves, mittens, athletic shoes, athletic gear. Like right now is wet soccer season. So, I mean, we're selling them to moms and dads all over the country that have to figure out a way to dry soccer shoes. And, a lot of times we have cooler evenings, so the heat is still running, or people have their fan running on their furnace. They travel with them to a hotel. And, you can't believe the pictures that people have sent me of how they hook these things up in hotels. But they work. It circulates the air up inside of a wet garment instead of trying to dry from the outside in. There's the innovation, is we just switched the drying. We're drying from the inside out, not the outside in.
So you saw a need, you created a product. You have new products as well. Is that
Right.
what happened in your innovation?
So we kind of have similar stories. There was a need for a better mouth guard on the market. So it's actually my husband, who's the inventor, came up with a completely different take on mouth guards. It's flat, it fits perfectly to your mouth. So for a bunch of years, we just did that kind of mouth guard. But recently, we have an R&D team on site, very smart people, and they came up with an idea on how to embed a microchip into the mouth guard to be able to measure head impact, not diagnosing anything, but to measure the head impact to see what it does over a certain period of time. There's an app that goes with it, so there's a Bluetooth and it sort of connects. So because we believe that there's a lot of talk about concussions and sports right now, and it's all true and it's all real. But we also believe that it's not just the big hits that matter. Every small hit matters as well, and they accumulate over time, which is what we're trying to do here, is raise awareness about what you put yourself through when you do sports.
So smart, so important. So you have seen a need, you've innovated something new. Your company is 100 years old, or over 100 years
Right,
old.
over 100 years
Yeah.
old, yeah. And the start
Different
of
kind
it,
of innovation,
right? It started with this kind of innovation. It started with the man needing a better winter hat, and his wife getting out the needle and thread and whipping one up for him. So it started from that, and we see ourselves as the sort of the stewards of this 115-year-old brand today, to try to keep it relevant. So we're trying to make sure it's relevant. It's still classic winter wool clothing, so it doesn't have technology, kind of like what Karen said, but we still want to make it relevant to today, and we're always looking for ways for it to be higher quality. In fact, we about 6 months ago, we changed the lining of our original cap, which has been the same since 1903 when it was invented, because we just were out on the sewing machine floor and saw our sewing machine operators struggling with the process a little bit, and we got to thinking that probably there's a better way to put this together. It ended up being something that you wouldn't even notice, really, but it made it a better process for us, which really ultimately results in a better quality garment at the end of the line.
And you're, just so that everybody watching can understand, you started with the hat with the ear.
Right, so it's a 6-panel hat like a baseball cap made out of wool, and there is an ear band that goes around, ties in the front, and it just slides down to keep your ears warm. And so that was the original patent, which is long since expired, but that was the original innovation.
I happen to own some of your.
That's great.
Some of your
Thank
wares.
you.
And everything, keychains.
Right.
All kinds of
Yeah.
stuff now, right?
Coats, vests, mittens, scarves, and yes, a pet product line as well. So kind of all staying within the brand and the aesthetic of the brand.
So if you had to, so we have startup over here. This is visionary stuff. This is saying, I see a need, I see room in the world for my vision. Can you talk about that process of and the grit that it took to get there? How long?
Sure. I mean, we're going into season number 5, coming up this fall and winter, and just like Gina said, it was all of these things come out of a need. I think every startup company, I'm not sure I've met too many people that just say, hey, I have nothing better to do, let's just start a company. It's not really that. So you're really attached to the need. So for me, it was my kids had wet gloves all the time and I could never get them dry. And I knew there was a better way. And, as a mom, we have to figure things out and fix it. So, I don't want to say we're even past the startup phase, because we're really not. We're just getting started. I mean, I look at companies that, brands that I just heard of a couple of years ago, and you do the research on them and they've been around for 15 years. And so I think we're just getting started, just changing the face of how people do things and why they do the things they do. But we're just scratching the surface. I mean, there's millions and millions of homes across the United States that have to go through winter, that have to, and it's not just kids and it's not just, teenagers, it's adults. They have to go out and shovel snow and snow blow and work out in the elements. I mean, just think about all of our contractors and our public service workers that are outside in the elements, have to find a way to dry. So I think the consistency, innovation and ways to improve product are what we all kind of focus on too. My first version is now, I don't want to say obsolete, but we've got something new now. We kind of changed the design a little bit. Same concept of what we do, just a more of an enhancement with the twist and lock version and the antimicrobial that is in the plastics, actually molded in. I have a son who has allergies, so I can't spray anything. We don't use hand sanitizer. So that was important to me because that was a need in my home. So we mold the antimicrobial into the plastic to help so that it actually prevents anything, 99% inhibition of the growth of bacteria and fungi and stuff on the product, but then also works to keep and reduce that bacteria from inside the gloves and the athletic gear. And so you reduce the smell, you reduce all of that.
So I don't want to make this necessarily about a show that's the challenges of women in manufacturing, but it could be, the biggest part of the story, or it could be incidental. What is it in your minds?
Totally incidental. I never even thought about being a woman would be different than being a man in manufacturing. And in fact, it was sort of a fluke for me as well. I was one of those moms that ran into Myers at 2 a.m. to get a mouth guard for my daughter who started field hockey the next morning. I came home with this big bulky thing and my husband saw it and he said, well, I use this for surgery. Why don't we try? And I know it works. Why don't we try that? And the rest is history. But I never ever thought that it would be any different to be a woman in manufacturing than a man. And in fact, I'm kind of grateful that I am, because there are lots of advantages to being a woman in manufacturing. You get a lot of help on the way.
And I would just add too, I think it might depend on the particular type of manufacturing that you might get different answers. But the majority of our employees are women. So almost everyone at a sewing machine in our factory is a woman. So the nature of our business tends to have more female employees. I'm also a family business, so I work with my dad and my sister, and I grew up around the business. So I've been a part of this business since I was a little girl, and my dad certainly doesn't put any limitations on where he thinks my sister or I can take the business. So I think I've been very fortunate in that regard.
That's good news. I think that there are probably women out there who want to start a company, they want to manufacture something, they're seeing a need and thinking, well, how am I going to do this? And just to hear 3 successful women say, you just do it, right?
Absolutely.
You have to have a lot of support too. You have to, I knew nothing about manufacturing going into this. I really had no idea. I mean, I can put words together, plastic injection molding, but really what that meant, I'd never seen a press work. I'd never seen stuff come off and how molds are made. And so it was really a learning curve. And for me, I made sure I did that fast. Mine was a very quick learning curve. But I surrounded myself and made sure that I had a good support system around of of individuals, and in fact, another a lady that was just instrumental in moving this forward. She's actually the plant manager of where we manufacture our product now. She taught me the trade. She really, she said, this is what it is. These are the materials. This is how it works. And I think that seeking those people out that will always be in your corner and help you learn, and there's always going to be ups and downs. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be things you go, why did I do it that way? But that's everything.
business.
Yeah,
business.
that's part of growing.
Yep.
I mean, that's if you don't have any downs, how do you know when you're going to get up?
You have to have those to get better, no matter what.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you said there's a lot of help along the way. Can you name some of those things?
Well, there are always those incubator little agencies around the state that it's been helpful to us. I live in Ann Arbor, so I've been a part of Ann Arbor Spark from the beginning. There has also, there are different state agencies called MEDC, SBDC. They offer support in all kinds of different ways for small businesses, and I've taken advantage of that. They've been very helpful. Along those lines, being a part of SBAM has also been instrumental for me to understand what's going on in the state. So there are lots. I will say, though, one thing you have to do is you have to look for it. It's not coming flying and landing in your lap. You got to be out there and get a little dirty and roll up your sleeves to find it. But it's out there.
Yeah, mentors.
Mentors, absolutely, yeah.
What about peers? Have they been important to you?
We connect with other Made in America sewing manufacturers. There aren't a lot of us, right? I mean, it's a kind of a dying thing, but there are some others in the Midwest besides us, and we all do slightly different things, so we're not direct competitors with each other. So it is a great resource to say, hey, what do you guys use for this? Or we've had several of these folks come to our facility to tour our facility so that we can share, here's some of the, a sewing factory isn't super highly automated or full of technology, but we have some. And so to be able to share that with other folks, or just to be able to pick up the phone to talk to someone who understands the challenges of making stuff in the USA, especially apparel, it's difficult. And that for us, that's probably one of our biggest challenges. And so we do have a handful of folks we can commiserate with about some of those issues.
But on that note, Gina, I think that being one of the selling points of our products, both yours and mine, and yours maybe, is that it's actually made in the U.S. and we pride ourselves of having that. It's huge. We can go overseas and make our mouth guards, the injection molding overseas. We choose not to. We want to create jobs here. We're proud of being Americans and being able to invent and employ people and all that.
I couldn't agree more. We make ours, 10 miles from my office in a small southwest corner of Michigan. And actually my manufacturer was just named and will be honored next month at one of the Michigan's 50 companies. And so, that's important. I said from the very beginning, I've never been to China. I don't need to go to China. I can't leave my family for that long because I'm not sure that they would, can handle or survive or eat. So for me, it was never even in the cards. It would never even cross my mind. I said, there's so many manufacturers here doing great things, making great products, and especially in Michigan. I mean, we can do this. We just have to figure out a way. And I think doing your homework, like you said, nobody's coming to knock on our door. But after you start looking at numbers and you think of import and tariffs and how mine is more of a seasonal product, and those costs start to add up. You're almost at the same cost that you are manufacturing here, if not less expensive, once your business starts to grow. So I think that made in China will go overseas is really, to me, it's dying, I think, a little bit, because we're starting to do our own homework here in the United States, in Michigan, and we can manufacture and be very competitive here. But yeah, help.
Yes, but I do think it depends on
the product,
the industry. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some textile industries were really decimated here 30 years ago or so, and so it's a real challenge. The infrastructure is just not here.
And I speak to plastic, so I'm sure, yes, it's different.
So it is. It's an interesting landscape.
Right.
So is there a common absolutely avoid this thing, these pitfalls, what would you say to somebody who is doesn't have a lot of support, who's out there watching this? What do you watch out for?
I would say stay focused. I mean, I think sometimes people with great ideas and that entrepreneurial spirit, you want to start with all 10 of your great ideas. And I just think there's so many challenges that you just don't even know that are coming. And to really get focused on your one or two key things that you want to make real and turn into a real product that's coming off a production line. You'll learn so much about manufacturing and about that process, and then you can expand it into more.
I agree with you, Gina, and I think that I always say to travel light, don't take on too much of debt because it's going to come back to haunt you. So if you can travel light, outsource what you can until you have the knowledge.
Great, that's great information, and I really want to thank you all for being here. This has been such a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for having us.
Thanks.
Jeff, today we were talking about manufacturing, and a lot of folks who use IT are more in an office type setting where people are at their desks and they're using computers all day long. Manufacturing is a little bit different. Talk about IT from the manufacturing perspective.
Right. Well, typically in a manufacturing facility, you have workers who are not at a desk. They're at a machine, or they're on a assembly line, or they're doing some other function, and they don't have access to a computer. And so from a business management perspective, we want that worker to do certain things like punch a time clock electronically, or read their email, or look at some information that we post on a website, and they don't have access to a computer. So we need to consider that and give them shared computers where they have a unique username to log in, or some other type of thing.
So when it comes to non-office employees in a manufacturing setting, do you think it's a good idea to provide all of the employees with an email address? It's a corporate email address?
Absolutely, because it's a great way to communicate, and the worker is not able to get real-time information, so they're going to go read their email at a time. Maybe it's first thing in the morning or at the end of the day. So when there's these types of email accounts, we need those workers to make sure that they have a strong password on that email, unique password that they've never used anywhere else.
So what strong passwords, what else can we do about passwords?
Well, besides strong password, if it's a cloud-based email, which most places have today, we want to have a second factor of authentication on that as well, which is some type of a code that's either texted to a phone, or maybe it's a phone that rings and they pick up and they get their second factor, a number, or it's an app on the phone that they run, and then they press the code and it enters the second factor, and that protects their email account.
And this is provided by the company?
By the organization,
the
yes.
Authentication, great. Okay, that's great information. Appreciate the help today.
You're welcome.
Focus on Tech, brought to you by Providence, making technology easier.
Leah, we have had a show with some amazing, strong women in manufacturing, and now we have you from the banking industry. Welcome, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so can you share with us how things have changed and progressed in banking as well?
Absolutely. Traditionally, banking has been a male-dominated industry. I'm really proud to say at Dart Bank that hasn't necessarily been the case. We have a very strong presence of women in leadership, but I've seen throughout the industry, especially with Michigan Bankers Association, empowering women. They have a wonderful Women in Banking Day. The attendance last year was 80 women. This year it was over 200. I would definitely encourage any women bankers that want to get involved to visit Michigan Bankers Association website and look at their tab for more information on that seminar. I'm very proud to work with an organization that helps empower women through legislative trips to Washington, D.C., and then also the American Bankers Association has a great women's conference, again, empowering that next generation of women leaders.
And from an HR perspective, what are some of the things that you've seen that have helped foster this climate of embracing gender equality?
Yeah, absolutely. I think really it stems from the top down. Having that leadership empower and be the cheerleader really helps.
And that inclusive atmosphere in the bank?
Yes.
Well, it's been wonderful to have you here. If you had advice for one woman who was going to go into banking, what would you say?
Absolutely. Find a great mentor.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Focus on Banking, brought to you by Michigan Bankers Association.
Denise, we were talking about manufacturing today, and one thing that was coming up over and over again is while you're in a manufacturing company, you're often also innovating a new product.
Absolutely. I mean, if you had the insight to develop one product that created a business, of course you're not going to stop there, and you're going to want to develop more products. However, make sure that you're still protecting the new products. Just because your agreements protected or patented one product does not mean that the people that you have around you who are marketing or helping to manufacture other companies involved in manufacturing that product or marketing it for you or in some other way, that product, that new product and that new idea is still vulnerable. So you need to revisit your contracts, revisit your confidentiality agreements, and do that for every new idea you have, even before you've started producing it or manufacturing it. You need to protect your new ideas with a patent.
With a patent.
Absolutely.
Okay. And now a new product is likely going to be an entirely new brand.
Exactly.
So a new brand has a whole bunch of other stuff, a name, a look.
Correct. Correct. And a patent is not a trademark. So we're all talking about intellectual property here, but the patent is going to be on a product or a process. The trademark is going to be on the name, so what you're calling it. And that might be something that you develop over time too. One name may market better than another. You can have more than one trade name, but you're going to need all of this protected because of course you put all of this work into developing a product, a process, a name, and you want to be able to protect your name and brand it properly. So you're going to need all of those protections, and happily there are numerous trademark and patent and intellectual property attorneys around Michigan to help you with that.
Great. Thanks so much for all your help.
You're welcome.
Focus on Law, brought to you by Policella and Associates, PLLC.
These incredible women had visions of something new, and they created it. If you have an idea, make it real. And thank you for tuning in.